You know that feeling when you're scrolling through endless options for a living room upgrade, and every product looks like a glossy promise? I was in that exact spot last week, trying to decide if an electric firebox was worth the money for my small apartment. I kept wondering if I'd end up with a fancy box that just looks good on paper but ends up being a hassle to install, or if I'd finally get that cozy glow without the maintenance of real wood. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a few evenings actually setting up the DIMPLEX Revillusion 42-inch firebox in my own dining area, so I'm not just talking about specs I read somewhere. The whole thing comes as a single unit. The firebox, a glass front, a herringbone brick interior, and a set of handcrafted faux logs. The 120-volt plug kit means you don't have to wrestle with hardwiring, which is a relief if you're not an electrician. What mattered most to me was how it fit into the existing wall cavity and whether the visual effect would hold up after the novelty faded. First off, the installation was genuinely easy as the marketing claims. The unit is designed to sit flush in a standard 42-inch cutout, and the plug kit simply slides into a standard outlet. I didn't need to drill any additional holes for venting because, being electric, there's no combustion. That said, you still need a solid wall and a nearby power source, so it's not a plug-and-play for every room. If your layout forces you to run a long extension cord, you'll notice a tiny dip in the LED brightness, but the effect is still pleasant. What really sold me was the visual depth the herringbone brick interior provides. Most electric fireboxes feel flat, but the brick backdrop reflects light in a way that makes the faux logs appear three-dimensional. When I dim the room lights, the flames flicker behind the glass and the brick pattern catches the glow, creating a surprisingly warm atmosphere. I tested it during a rainy evening with the TV off, and the room felt cozier than any LED lamp could deliver. If you're looking for a centerpiece that adds a real fireplace vibe without the mess of real wood, this is where the value shines. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider this model. If you live in a condo, a rental, or any space where you can't install a traditional chimney, an electric unit is essentially the only realistic option. The DIMPLEX Revillusion is also great for people who want the aesthetics of a fireplace but have limited time for maintenance. No ash cleanup, no wood storage, no need to schedule chimney sweeps. On the other hand, if you have a large open-plan living area and you're hoping for a massive heat output, this unit might feel underpowered. The firebox is primarily decorative. The heat it emits is modest, suitable for supplementing a small room rather than heating an entire floor. One practical strength I discovered was the quiet operation. Many electric fireplaces have a faint humming that can become noticeable when you're trying to watch a movie. The Revillusion's fan and LED system run almost silently, so the only sound you hear is the soft crackle that the software simulates. That crackle isn't a real ember pop, but it's subtle enough to add ambience without being a distraction. I also appreciated the real-time control via the included remote, which lets you adjust flame intensity, brightness, and even set a timer. You can program it to turn off after a few hours, which is useful for saving electricity if you fall asleep with the fire on. On the flip side, there are a few trade-offs worth mentioning. The glass front, while sleek, is prone to fingerprints and smudges, especially in a high-traffic area. A quick wipe with a soft cloth is enough, but you'll need to keep a cleaning routine if you want it to stay spotless. Also, the faux log set, while handcrafted and visually convincing, can feel a little repetitive after a few weeks. Because the logs don't change position, the flames follow the same path every night, which might reduce the illusion for very detail-oriented viewers. If you're the type who likes a constantly evolving flame pattern, you may notice this limitation sooner rather than later. Another point to consider is the energy consumption. Even though the unit is 120V and doesn't draw the same power as a full-size gas fireplace, it still uses a few hundred watts when set to high flame mode. For most users, that's a negligible addition to a monthly bill, but if you're budgeting every kilowatt, you'll want to keep the timer function handy. In my tests, running it on low for an hour used roughly the same electricity as a standard table lamp, which is a fair trade for the ambience it provides. If you have kids or pets, the safety factor is a plus. The glass stays cool to the touch after the unit shuts off, and there's no open flame risk. The built-in safety shutoff cuts power.